vitro systems, or the basically a stem cell platform. So we'll start with stem cell platform for screening pharmaceuticals, because you are all pharmacy students, pharmacy experts, and you need to screen various kind of drugs for their toxicity and ultimately the preclinical studies, clinical studies, and so on. So I just chose this topic to introduce a new world for you, which will make your life easy. And many pharmaceutical industries and colleges can also initiate such kind of facilities so as to have a quicker results. Instead of going directly from the animal experiments, it is better to start some initial study with cell culture, and the human cell platform. I will come to that. Can you allow me to share my slides? And
Please, sir. Sir, it is visible. Just need to make a present. Yes, it is
fine.
presentation.
Well
Yeah.
done. Yes, sir. So the topic I have chosen is human stem cells as a screening platform for pharmaceutical medicines. So this is particularly so because it's a new field of stem cells, and earlier people have used, I mean, many pharmacy and pharma labs are conversant with in vitro laboratory or the cell culture techniques in which they have screened their drugs on cell lines. So these cell lines are basically of animal origin, or these could be of human origin, such as cancer cell lines, or this could be of animal origin from monkey, rats, rabbits, and so on. In fact, the institute from where I retired, the National Center for Cell Science, is the prime institute of the Department of Biotechnology, which has a cell repository or an animal cell bank, or we can say animal cell zoo, which provides all the kinds of cells for the research purposes to all over India. And I was in charge of the cell repository. So they have the cell lines derived from mosquito to man. And therefore, these cell lines definitely form a very good platform for screening pharmaceutical drugs. Now, as you all know, the journey of a drug candidate from conception to delivery may take around 10 years or even more than that, because there are basically three steps involved. One is discovery of a drug, then development of a drug, and then delivery of the drug. So these three Ds are extremely important: discovery, development, and delivery, to reach the market, and then it reaches to the common man. So here I am just showing you the discovery research, synthesis for a drug, lead compound, optimization, because it starts with some idea that there may be a plant product, there may be a wonderful ingredient from the plants, herbs, or maybe from the chemicals and so on, or derivatives, or any other kind of form. So all this becomes an idea for drug target. Then the drug candidates you have to identify from that, and ultimately, slowly you have to get all kinds of permissions, preclinical studies, clinical studies, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and later on you reach the market. And invariably, many drugs, of course, succeed, but many drugs do fail in the first or second clinical trial. That is called attrition, drug attrition rate. And this is because the drug discovery program is not really what is true in animals may not be true in man, because each individual is different. So therefore, now the stem cell platform which I am aiming at will help us to reduce these drug attrition and to get the results which are can be extrapolated to the human. So why does it take a long time to form a new drug approved? Because as I told you, discovery development is one part, That is first stage, early drug discovery, maybe 10,000 compounds. Then second stage is preclinical, where you can have 250 compounds. Then stage 3 will be clinical trial, maybe 5 compounds, and of which one may succeed. So these are what is called as the pyramids or the statistics that one can say that amongst, and because of this bioinformatics knowledge, you can literally get thousands of drugs, even millions of drugs, and from which you have to choose particular drug which may be useful for diabetes or osteoarthritis or even for the infectious diseases. Because drug market is so large that it covers the entire health sector of infectious and non-infectious diseases. So it could be antibiotics, it could be steroids, it could be immunomodulators, and many others, or it could reduce the inflammation because inflammation is the root cause of all the diseases. So many drugs which are non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs are in the market. There are antacids in the market, there are antibiotics in the market, and you name the drug. So I always envy the pharmacists because the pharmacological knowledge, because they really make our life easy and we can survive and achieve the good life because of the drug discovery, which make us may not be disease free, but at least we can control our disease. Okay, now coming to the cell lines, as I was mentioning that NCCS has got several cell lines, and these cell lines they belong to the cancer cell lines, mosquito cell lines, and the monkey cell lines. Even we have got from armadillo, tiger, and so on. So all these animal cell lines becomes a very good platform for toxicity testing of the chemical because you need to know whatever drug you have produced should be a non-toxic. That is first primary, what is called as the factor, which is important in drug development. That if the drug itself is toxic to the cells, then it cannot act, or then you have to modulate it with joining with some other drugs or reduce the toxicity and so on. So the first and prime importance of any drug discovery program is it should be a non-toxic. It should have a minimum side effects or it should keep the cells viable. So with that aim, actually many cell lines such as MDA, MB, HeLa cell line, AIMS, these are all cancer cell lines of the human origin. Then HE2 cell line, which is for liver. Then T3TL1 is a mouse cell line. So all these cell lines are very much popular in the pharma world for initial screening of the drug. And all these drug molecule compounds are screened initially in all these cell lines. And they give us a sumptuous data with reference to cell proliferation, cell death, apoptosis, or basically, as I was mentioning, the cell viability. So cell viability is extremely important that after and then you can also have something like your LD15 animals, the tissue culture TCID50 of a drug, that means at a minimum concentration of 50%, how many cells survive. So all these TCID50 decks or even you can screen viruses on this and several others. So it becomes a cell line, becomes a very good platform for drug screening, no doubt about it. But the limitations of these for drug screening are that all the cell lines may not be available all the time. They need to perform primary cell culture. Don't worry about that. Primary cell cultures are the cultures which are derived directly from the animals. For example, you take monkey kidney primary cultures. So monkey kidney is to be removed. And in fact, all these primary cultures of the monkey kidney are used for polio vaccine people. So it's a very, very popular that for polio vaccine earlier they used to have the monkey kidney cell. And even there are kidney cell lines which are available like Vero lines. So many kidney cell lines are popular for screening of the drugs. And just I remember that the polio virus vaccine is basically developed in monkey primary cultures. Another thing is when we talk that these are cell lines. So cell lines means they are immortal. That means they will not have natural death. as long as you go on supplying the food or the nutrient medium and the required temperature and the sterile conditions, the cells will grow happily without any signs of senescence. So in other words, these cell lines are immortal. And when anything is immortal, it is abnormal. Because every living organism has a fixed span of life, and that naturally leads to the end of the life. So a finite life is a characteristic feature of a living organism. And here exactly we are dealing with this infinite because all these immortal cell lines, which I told you, are infinite. That means they are almost immortal. For example, the Henrietta Lancet, the lady who died of cervical cancer, and her cells HeLa, HeLa, right here, yeah, this HeLa cell line. So she died in 1952, but her cell lines are there in all over the world in all the laboratories for the research purposes. So the lady died, but during that the tumor from which the HeLa cell line was developed has been given the name HeLa because of her initials of her name, Henrietta Lancet. So they are immortal. So that means they are different from normal cell. So this is a limitation that what is true of a drug action in an immortalized cell line may not be directly correlated to normal cells of the human being or inhuman. Because we are dealing with the cell lines which are immortal. Then they do not mimic the in vivo scenario. That means, as I told you, they are quite away. There is absence of tissue organization. So, for example, Hg2 cell line is derived from liver, or there is another cell line called a Chang liver. For the namesake, it is a Chang liver, but it does not show any properties of a liver cell. Neither it stores glycogen, nor it has got any other kind of liver function. But since it is derived from the liver, so namesake it is there. Similarly, hepatocarcinoma cell line Hg2 is of course from the liver, and it is very, very popular cell line for drug screening for the hepatic protective. Okay, but in any case, they are quite away from the normal scenario. And then we have the genetic stability also. They are all genetically unstable and they are heteroploid. Now, you must have, as students of biology, you must be knowing that all the organisms which are normal are diploid. So, diploidy is very, very important. That means you have a 2n number of chromosomes. For example, all the humans have 46 chromosomes. Any deviation from that becomes an abnormal. So it could be then trisomy 47, 48, 45, anything. So it could be less, more, or there may be duplication, addition of a chromosome, and then what we call as heteroploid. So diploid is always preferred because that shows the normal genetic component of the cell. Okay, then animal models are of course used. You cannot do without animals because whatever you have done with the cell lines, you get some bleed. From there, you can filter the compounds, but before reaching the clinical trials in human, you have to depend upon the animal model. So there, I mean, I need not tell you because there are several animal models which you must be using, especially in all the pharma labs, you will have rats, mice, guinea pigs, and so on. But many pharmaceutical college, I mean, but pharma labs can have a special permission to work on dog, cat, guinea pig, pigs, rabbit, and so on. So here we have given baboons are used for myocardial infarction, the dog for acute pancreatitis, and in fact, the entire discovery of insulin was done on a beagle dog by Banting and West, and we are celebrating the century of the discovery of insulin in 1922 by, and so Nobel Prize winning discovery by Banting and West. And he used for his experimentation the beagle dog. So the dog has also got importance because The experiments were carried out on this, and even the best and banking have their photograph with the dog which they use for the insulin distribution. So the credit also goes to the animals for letting us, for giving us the insulin even for type 1 diabetes as well as type 2 diabetes. Then cat, mini pig, rabbit, and so on. So let us not waste our time because we have to see how the cells can help us. Okay, then the another limitation that there are variation, interspecies differences, there are comorbid conditions, then there are limitations of the animal models. For example, they are homogeneous. We always use inbred animals, but actually in practice we have to use outbred animals. Then there is age and sex. We always select the animals of the same age, same sex, and having the same conditions which normally a human may not enjoy. For example, we never have air condition, all of us may not have, maybe one room may be air conditioned. But if the entire animal house is air conditioned, in the sense they maintain a particular room temperature, such kind of extreme care is not there in human being. So we have to take it with a pinch of salt that although we keep our animals in the best possible conditions because we need to get our results quickly so that we can progress, but in a way, these are not natural conditions in which the human being. So there also are differences. But apart from that, naturally we see to it that the animals are parasite free, they are not, and everything is there. So we have a complete conditioned mind in which we keep our animals in an autobiotic conditions, germ-free conditions, which may not be exist in the case of human. So that may be one of the reasons of the failure of the drugs, because whatever trials we do in animals, all the drugs don't succeed in clinical trials. It is because of the variations and several other conditions, including the environment of the animals. Now coming to the stem cells, how the stem cells are different from the cell line. Because I have been telling you about animal cell lines which are immortal. So the first point here that the stem cells are diploid and they are have a finite life. All the cell lines have infinite life, so they are immortalized, but the stem cells are not immortal. They show signs of senescence, and these stem cells are present everywhere in the human being. But the main treasure of stem cells which have been discovered is the bone marrow. So human bone marrow stem cells, which harbors the hematopoietic stem cells as well as mesenchymal stem cells, play an important role in our life because they can be used for therapeutic purposes as well. There are several clinical trials going on by using stem cells for degenerative. In fact, I have written a paper that regenerative medicine for degenerative diseases, which exactly tells us that the stem cells can regenerate the lost cells and give us back our quality of life. For example, they can regenerate the worn out cartilage of the knee so that you can get the stem cell injections in the knee joint are able to regenerate the cartilage, and then the person can walk without having knee replacement surgery. So these are some of the, what I told you, the wow factor of stem cells, that stem cells can be used for management of the disease, for cure of the disease, and so on, because it is a solution, what we call as a biological solution to the biological problem. Now, coming to the definition of a stem cell, the stem cells have, here we have said infinite in the sense embryonic stem cell. So we are talking about hematopoietic stem cell, we are talking about mesenchymal stem cell, where they have a finite life. They cannot be grown beyond certain passages because they will show, like a normal cell, signs of senescence. We can delay the senescence. I will come to that later on. So there are several categories of stem cells. The totipotent stem cells are the embryonic stem cells or induced pluripotent stem cells, which are immortal in the sense they can convert themselves into any kind of cell. So there is a hierarchy. For example, in the animal kingdom, the zygote is the only totipotent stem. That means from the zygote you can get the entire organism. But as the zygote divides or undergoes cleavage, it forms two blastocysts or two blastomeres, four blastomeres, and so on. And then with this cleavage division, the potency of the stem cell is reduced. They become pluripotent, multipotent, bipotent, unipotent, and ultimately you get a particular organ like bone, muscle, blood, and so on. Now, there is another peculiarity of stem cell that when the stem cell divides, it divides asymmetrically into a parent cell and a differentiate. Because that is a property of a stem cell. So, by definition, the stem cells have infinite self-renewing capacity. That means they can renew themselves. Infinite, I mean, they are not immortal, but they are proliferative in nature. In other words, to tell you in a different way, that the stem cells have not forgotten their mitosis. Now, all other differentiated cells, they cannot divide further. For example, RBCs cannot divide, WBCs cannot divide, muscle cells cannot divide, nerve cells cannot divide, but the stem cells can divide. So, therefore, we are mentioning that they are having infinite self-renewing capacity and the potential for differentiation. Very important. For example, in our body, there are bone marrow stem cells, there are stem cells in the skin, there are stem cells in the hair. So all these will give new hair follicles, and so on. So the stem cells from the skin will give rise to skin, and so on. But at the same time, the bone marrow stem cells or any other kind of of stromal cells which are present in each and every organ as an undifferentiated pool of cells, they can convert themselves into adipocytes, chondrocytes, osteocytes. While dividing, the stems, one is always a stem cell, another is a committed cell. So the stem cell pool remains constant throughout the life. That means there will be decrement in the stem cell pool as we age. But even then, the stem cells, at least some amount of stem cells, would be present in our body even at the age of 80 or 90. So there is no that condition that there will be zero stem cells as you age. No, the stem cells are always there and they are present in the various pockets in our body. Now, how they look like? So this is just to show these are gingival stem cells which we have developed in a DY Patil regenerative laboratory. There we are working with stem cells from dental pulp, stem cells from adipose tissue, stem cells from umbilical cord, stem cells from gingiva. Because this laboratory is placed in the dental college, it is easier to get all the dental material. So our initial attempt was to use these what we called as the discarded teeth or the discarded excessive gingiva. And all this, which is a biological waste, we have used it. And this is how the stem cell look like. They look like fibroblasts. And they, in gingival epithelial cells will be like a polygonal. So they can, I hope you will be able to see that. So with the stem cells, the characteristic feature that they are fibroblastic nature and they grow very fast and they can differentiate. Now, in stem cell culture, what are the different sources of stem cells and what do I mean by differentiation? So actually speaking, yeah. Say the stem cells from a single precursor, say in a bakery products, you can get biscuits, crockeries, all kind of cookies and so on. So a same product which starts with say maida or any precursor cell and you get different kinds of bakery products. That is exactly what I mean by differentiation of the stem cell. So a common precursor stem cell, you can get adipocyte, chondrocyte, osteocytes, liver cells, heart cells, and so on. And that is the beauty of stem cell, that they can differentiate into any type of cells. The cartoon just to show what do I mean by differentiation. And these are the various sources: dental pulp, gingiva, deciduous teeth, bone marrow, breast milk, that all the delivery breast, placenta, amniotic membrane. So all this is a precious human sources of stem cell. You know the stem cells and the stem cells are there. For example, if I take you to your KG life, when you must have studied in your senior KG, junior KG, where is air? Air is everywhere. So the similar manner, where are stem cells? Stem cells are everywhere. So God has given us, the nature has given us the beauty of stem cells, including the brain. Although we saw that the mature neurons cannot differentiate, cannot grow further because they are terminally differentiated cells. Still, there are stem cells within the brain. There are stem cells in spinal cord. There are stem cells in the liver. There are stem cells in the pancreas. And of all which we never thought of, there are stem cells in the adipose tissue. We hate our adipose tissue or the fat the most. Everybody wants to be slim and thin. But let me tell you, as a stem cell biologist, that the maximum stem cells are present in the fat. So the fat is fit in a way, it should not be obese, it should not be too much, but otherwise, a little fat is of course appreciated because you have ample of stem cells present into the adipose. So adipose tissue, even there are stem cells. So the stem cells are present in the endometrium, in the uterus, they are present in the breast milk. So everywhere, as I told you. And then these stem cells can be isolated. As I told you, they show a morphology of a fibroblast like. They can be cultivated and they are identified with their markers which are present on the surface. As all of us have some identity mark on our body, similarly, the stem cells have their identity mark on the cell surface, which we call as CD antigen 105, 73, CD90, and they should be absent by CD45, CD34, which are hematopoietic marker. They should be absent with HLA-DR, which is a immunological marker. So, with these, we qualify that the stem cells, you isolate stem cells from any organ, but then you have to characterize those and you have to show that what we are isolating is a stem cell population and nothing but stem cell. Just like we take an oath, I will say truth and nothing but truth. So similarly, here what we are isolated are stem cells because they show these characteristics and they can differentiate into adipocytes, chondrocytes. So these are minimum requirements to qualify the stem cell which differs from a body cell. For example, our skin cell cannot differentiate into liver. Okay, our liver cells will only form liver, or pancreatic cells will only form pancreas, but the stem cells which are present in all these organs which I have enlisted now, dental pulp, adipose tissue, bone marrow, cord blood, umbilical cord, placenta, all these stem cells isolated from that, they are multipotent. They can be differentiated into different types of cells, and at least from the International Society of Stem Cells, to qualify a stem cell, it must have the morphology of fibroblast. Then they are all anchorage dependent. That means they always attach to the substratum. They are not floating. The floating cells are normally the hematopoietic or the blood-derived stem cell. But the stem cells, which we call as stromal cells, are always anchorage dependent. That means they will attach to the bottle, attach to the glass vessel or plate, glass plate, and so on. So they should be positive for CD105, 73, 90, should be negative for 70, 34, and 45 hematologic marker, and they should be negative for HLA-DR antigen. And this qualifies the stem cell for allogenic transplantation. Because with this capacity, with these particular characteristics, the stem cells are not recognized as a foreign, and therefore it is possible to go for allogenic stem cell therapy. That is another beauty of stem. Now, coming to the different functions, so they are what the stem cells do. Anyway, we will also, these are the various sources. Again, I am just giving you all sources of stem cell. So you can get the stem cell, they can differentiate into in their lineage, but basically they are anti-fibrotic. Then they have angiogenic, they have antibacterial effect, they have chemoattractive, immunomodulatory, then they have neuroprotective role, hematopoietic stem cells, and so on. So in fact, basically they are anti-inflammatory and immunomodulatory, and this is extremely important for us from the point of view of therapeutic purpose as well as from the point of view of drug screening. So when you screen a drug, it is possible to add a drug and see whether it is anti-inflammatory in nature or it is pro-inflammatory in nature. All these things can be carried out. Now we have done some experiments using Pinospora for proliferation and senescence. So these are some of the Ayurvedic compounds which we get from our Ayurvedic pharmacy in D.Y. Patil Ayurvedic College, and we have tested that Pinospora is very well known for its action on especially osteoarthritis and knee of the culture and so on. So first we saw whether it is toxic, it is non-toxic. It in fact adds to the proliferation. And another thing what we saw that it delays the senescence. You can see the untreated cells. If you can see, there are several blue color cells. Beta galactoside is staining, but the treated cells with different concentrations have reduced the senescence. That means this particular plant drug. We know that many Ayurvedic rasayanas have anti-aging, that you look younger. So what you younger means, when you say you look younger, that means your cells become younger. They don't senesce, and if they are anti-senescent, that is what we want. There are many Chinese herbal medicine which they claim for anti-aging, anti-senescence, and so on. So even we have some Ayurvedic rasayanas which you can test and prove. That means you give a scientific evidence to show that yes, really they are anti-aging, and we have treated the normal stem cells with this Pinospora, and we have found that they have anti-senescence activity. They also have cell proliferation activity, because as we age, our proliferation becomes. But even some cell proliferation is required for regeneration and repair. So this we published some time back. Then earlier in Bangalore, I have in a regenerative medicine lab, we have used Dhanvantari Kashayam is an Ayurvedic product which is in the market. So we have directly used that and show that by using this again, it is anti-senescent, and it also have the activity of proliferation. So this is a synthetic formulation, Dhanvantari Kashayam, which deals. Then we have got one project from Science and Engineering Research Board to study the effect of certain herbs on osteogenic differentiation. So here also we have used the osteodifferentiation by treating the stem cells, because the idea is the stem cells can do their job. But if we have to enhance their activity, for example, we know that the stem cells can differentiate into bone cells, or they can differentiate into chondrocytes, that is cartilage. Then to enhance that chondrogenic activity or to enhance that osteogenic activity, can we make use of the pharmaceutical drugs or herbal preparation? So we treated these stem cells with normally use of osteogenic cocktail to show that they become osteogenic, and then we added our Piper longum extract in 1 mg, 10 mg, 100 mg, and now you can see the difference. The osteogenesis is enhanced. This color itself shows us that there is an enhanced osteogenic activity when we treat the stem cells. So this is a concept called as preconditioning stem cell. That means to direct the fate of the stem cells by using any pharma drug. So this is a very, very important point from the pharmaceutical students for you all, that you can use stem cell platform to enhance a particular activity of the stem cell. So either you can have proliferating activity, certain drugs can proliferate stem cells better, they have more doubling time. Then some can have differentiating activity. If you want to have a drug for osteoarthritis of the knee, you can think of chondrocyte proliferating agent. Then for osteoporosis, you can think of bone drugs which will induce the bone formation, osteocytes, and so on. So this is what I want to tell you, that you can use the stem cell platform for cell proliferation, cell differentiation, anti-aging, and anti-proliferative. If at all you get something, you can use it for cancer. So in no way your search for the drugs goes west. Either you have a very good drug for cell proliferation, or you have a very good drug for cell inhibition, which you can use for cancer inhibition or metastasis. Okay, then this is another point which I explained here, that don't worry about the whole thing. Is 6-OHDA is the compound which is very, very important in differentiation of MSC into neurons. So this work was carried out in NIMHANS, Bangalore, and we have shown that by treating this agent, you can, by direct contact or indirect contact, it is possible to differentiate these stem cells. And the dental post stem cells I have shown earlier, that they can be directly differentiated into dopamine secretory neurons, which are very essential in Parkinson's. Now, the dental pulse stem cells are different from all other stem cells because they are originated from the ectoderm. If I go back to your 12th standard knowledge, we have three germ layers: ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm. So the dental pulp is derived from the ectoderm, and all ectoderm derivatives, which are nerves, skin, hair. So the dental pulp stem cells are good for, because their origin is there. Whereas all other stem cells which are enlisted, adipose tissue, umbilical cord, placenta, they come from mesoderm. Whereas the pancreatic stem cell will come. Now, just coming to my research, that I have shown that mesenchymal stem cells of a dental origin can be converted into islets of Langerhans by using a 3 weeks protocol, 10-day protocol, by using a cocktail of 3 different agents, that is 3-step protocol. So these are the mesenchymal stem cells, 0 day, then we put them in serum-free medium. Day 4, they start aggregating. Day 6, they start forming clusters, and by day 8 and day 10, they form spheroid cultures, or which we call as islets of Langerhans, which secrete insulin in vitro in response to. So we have stained them with a particular stain called diathiazone, and we also shown that they are positive for C-peptide. You know, when the insulin is produced, it's produced from proinsulin, and the proinsulin molecule splits into a C-peptide and insulin. So they are equimolar, but the C-peptide shows that it is an endogenous insulin. So this is just to show that stem cells can be differentiated into islets, they can be differentiated into cardiomyocytes, they can be differentiated to formative neuron. And my point of saying here is that you can use this stem cell platform as an undifferentiated stem cell for proliferation, differentiation, anti-aging studies. But at the same time, you can use the stem cell derived progeny. For example, these islets of Langerhans can be used for the diabetes. The hepatocytes derived from stem cells can be used for all hepatocyte, liver development of drugs for the liver injury and so on. So stem cells and their progeny, I can say, becomes a very good platform for screening the action of pharmaceutical drugs, whether it is antioxidative, hepatoprotective, cardioprotective, insulin producing. Where we show that the bone marrow, adipose tissue, dental pulp, gingiva, gallbladder, all these are the sources of stem cells from which you can get the islets of Langerhans. And then these islets of Langerhans can be used for all kinds of studies with pertaining to diabetes. For example, whether there are what are the drugs which can kill the beta cells, or what are the drugs which will promote the regeneration of the beta cells, everything can be tested in vitro in a model which we have developed, and even the islets of Langerhans, which we derived from stem cell, can be transplanted in type 1 diabetes. So I have used in my animal experiments, there is a paper in stem cell where we have used the stem cells from adipose tissue, converted them into islets of Langerhans, and these islets of Langerhans are directly transplanted into diabetic rats or diabetic mice, and we have shown reversal of diabetes by islet transplanting. So this technology is also available if we can go for clinical trials in humans. Now, this is another way I was showing that even the stem cells can be preconditioned with an anti-diabetic drug called metformin. You know, all of you know that metformin is an insulin sensitizer which is used for type 1 diabetes. So we treated these stem cells, these are adipose tissue stem cells with metformin, and we have shown that metformin preconditioned adipose derived mesenchymal stem cell is a better option for the reversal of. Now, here in case of type 2 diabetes, we need not transplant diabetes because type 2 diabetes is characterized by hyperinsulinemia and hyperglycemia. And there is enough insulin, but that insulin is not utilized properly by the body because of the insulin. And this insulin resistance is at the level of liver, adipose tissue, and muscle. So the idea of transplanting stem cells and not dying type 2 diabetes is because these stem cells may act as insulin sensitizing. So we have done this in all animal studies, and now we will go for human clinical trials. And there are many trials already been done by others all over the world. Stem cell therapy for type 2 diabetes. So here the idea is to have islet regeneration at the same time counteracting the insulin resistance, which is the main important factor in type 2 diabetes. So here we have shown that the fasting insulin levels will also be improved. Then you can see serum triglycerides come down. Basically, the LDL come down, the serum IL-6 goes down, and triglycerides and so on. So what we have shown that even in the case of obese diabetic mice, the metformin treated mesenchymal stem cells can bring the sugar level. Then the most important thing is whether the stem cells can be used. In fact, they are used as immunomodulators because they have got all the activities to have anti-inflammatory in nature because they are not considered as a foreign because they lack HLA-DR antigen, and there are several ways by which they can help us to have the immune response modulated. Now, this is especially true in the case of COVID-19. All of us are aware of, and there is a cytokine storm, and which actually kills the patient. So this COVID virus, which induces a cytokine storm, it can be subsided by stem cell therapy. And there are many companies which have come out with a drug and they inject the stem cells and they have done clinical trials. There are published papers that the stem cells which are injected intravenously, and this could be stem cells from umbilical cord, adipose tissue, or anything, or many, or even bone marrow. So any stem cell source, because they can be used in allogenic setting as they lack HLA-DR antigen, they are not antigen, but they can modulate your immune response in such a way that they will have T suppressor cell, they will have NK cell activation, and so on. So here what we have shown that they reduce apoptosis, then they are angiogenic activities there, they are immunosuppressive in nature, and so on. Second slide will tell us. Yeah. So basically, the beta cell proliferation differentiation goes down, then MSC will have INF gamma IL-2 sequencing. T regs are upregulated, then they inhibit the T cell activation, then they will have maturation activation, then they will also have the monocytes and so on. So basically, the immune response is modulated in such a way that it can also be used as an immunosuppressant. In fact, there is after organ transplantation, there is a graft versus host disease. So this graft versus host disease is a dangerous condition because of the interaction with the foreign body. Although we have hatching and so on, many times it so happens that there is an immune response given by the host to discard the transplanted organ, and that is called as graft versus host disease. And this can be modulated by mesenchymal transfusion intravenously. So there was Prochymal was the first drug developed by USA for graft versus disease. So they have immunomodulation. So it is possible to test any compound in stem cell to show whether they secrete anti-inflammatory cytokines, whether they secrete growth factors, whether they secrete angiogenic agents, and so on. Then, in homeopathy, there is a drug called arsenic album, and which we have tried in stem cells, and we show that it has got an what is called as immunomodulatory. It is a immunobooster. So we show how it is immunobooster. So this the of this. So ultimately, the advantages of this over the conventional preclinical model that MSCs are normal discharge cells. I am telling again and again that the cell lines are immortal, they are abnormal, they will give some clue, no doubt about it. But if you deviate from the cell lines to the stem cells, the results can be extrapolated to the human because you are using a human stem cell platform. So human has its own brand. What is true in human is true in human only. What is true in mouse may not be true in man, but what is true in human stem cell can be easily extrapolated to the human condition. Of course, you need to have animal experimentation, no doubt about that, but the attrition rate of the drugs will definitely go down if we use stem cell platform, which is normal, they can negate the differences, then can be isolated from any other discarded tissues, not a big deal, because there is non-invasive except for bone marrow. All sources of stem cells which are any state, where liposuction is possible. And nobody will say no to take kilos of fat from you because you will look better. You are obese. So there is always a liposuction, and the liposuction fat can be used as a stem cell source. Similarly, the discarded tooth, wisdom tooth, which is removed, or the normal milk teeth which fall down. So all this can be used as what I tell the concept of trash to treasure. So whatever biological waste of the human origin is discarded can be gainfully used to make a stem cell bank. And actually we are having in the DY Patil Regenerative Medicine Lab, Vidyapit, that we have a stem cell bank from umbilical cord, placenta, adipose tissue, dental pulp, gingiva, and these cells which are normal are available for the experiments to others also. We supply the cell lines with very low cost to maintain our lab. So in summary, the mesenchymal stem cells can be used for pharmaceutical drugs, and they will reduce the time of 10 years to 5 years. So should be possible because there you can test the proliferation, cytotoxicity, dose determination, and many. And plus you can use these drugs for the differentiation in adipocyte, because if you want to have anti-adipocyte drug which reduces the fat formation, it is good. So you can try here that the stem cells you add that drug and it will not differentiate. So if you can inhibit adipocyte formation, it's a good contribution to the science. Similarly, if you can find some new compounds can give rise to cartilage, bone, islets of Langerhans, and any other. So this is the entire field open for research and development. And being a pharma student, you will be happy to use this cells, which is easier than animal model because you get quick results within 48 hours. For differentiation, you may have to wait little longer, but proliferation, anti-senescence, then differentiation into this, you can definitely have a smaller window of period in which you can get good results that are publishable and which you can, of course, being a human cell platform, the impact of your research also goes high, high impact. So that is what is extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So it was a very wonderful and very informative session, sir. There are two questions in the chat box. If you allow, I can just speak it up.
Sure, sure, my pleasure.
So first question is, till how many years the totipotency of stem cells is maintained?
Yeah, totipotent cells are immortal, like embryonic stem cells. So embryonic stem cells and the induced pluripotent stem cell, that is the Nobel Prize winning discovery of IPS was done. So these are immortal, it is always there. But then it is the use is restricted to research only because since they are immortal, there are restrictions on the use of embryonic stem cells and induced pluripotent stem cells for human transplantation. So you can use only the mesenchymal stem cells for transplantation or stem cell therapy. There is a ban of using embryonic stem cells for. Of course, induced pluripotent stem cell you can use because you can derive the stem cell from the same patient. So then there is no problem because they are.
I think Meshram sir is having one question. So you can ask, sir. Please unmute yourself and you can ask, sir.
Yes.
Sir, myself Satish. Sir, can you possible to the stem cell study for polycystic ovary syndrome?
Probably there are few studies are going on and I'm not very sure. Actually,
Okay.
in our center, IVF center, which we have recently initiated in Dr. D.Y. Patel Vidyapeeth, where Dr. Sunita Tandurwarkar, she is using for the ovaries to induce oogenesis and develop new ova. Or for infertility testing, she is using stem cells directly into the uterus or in.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
So there is one more question from Dr. Priya. Can you please highlight the stem cell based therapies that are currently in medical practice now?
So most of the things are still under clinical trials because since it's a new entity, there are clinical trials which have shown the stem cell therapy has been proven in clinical trials for critical limb ischemia, the STEMpeutic study where I was there in Bangalore STEMpeutic study. So they have used the stem cells for smokers who have got varicose veins or there is what is called as critical limb ischemia. They have used stem cell therapy and clinical trials. It has not yet come to the market, but the product is ready called STEMpeucell. Similarly, they have used another kind of stem cells for osteoarthritis, where they are directly injected into the knee and 25 patients were tried, but the cell number, I mean, patient number is less. So you should have more patients, but ultimately it is safe to use stem cells. They are not discarded and they do the job of fertilization has been proven. Similarly, there are some stem cell trials in type 2 diabetes, which was done in Chandigarh, and they have injected the stem cells either intravenously or directly into the pancreatic artery. Anil Bhansali from Chandigarh has done that, and he shows those stem cells patients of type 2 diabetes. They are off the insulin after stem cell.
Thank you, sir. So next question is from Dr. Rohini Wagmare. She has actually a 3-part question. So for a one basic screening study on stem cells, how much is the investment? If such lab is to be developed, which agency can give the funding? And third is whether it is possible for further collaboration with your lab.
The collaboration is possible. Third answer is yes. Because the investment is literally much, because to have a stem cell facility with GMP, we'll have to really invest around 1 crore, including instruments and all. So, but any cell culture lab, what I say, can use stem cell. You need not have GMP because you are just screening the drugs. If you are going for stem cell therapy, you require GMP facility. Just to handle the stem cells in your lab, if you have a cell culture lab established in a college or in any institute, we can provide you the stem cells and you can directly use the stem cell for screening purposes. And nobody will give funding for establishment of a stem cell. The funding agencies will always give you funds for consumables and manpower. 1 or 2 instruments you can purchase it.
Sir, I would like to ask one question.
Yeah.
What is, as there is an incline towards more stem cell research, sir, are there any quality assurance parameter how this stem cell should be, what should be an ideal character of the stem cell? Are there any such quality assurance parameter for this stem cell, sir?
Yeah, because you require that fax machine on which you can you can characterize that these stem cells are positive for CD90, CD, all those markers. So that identification is a must. So even for clinical trials, you have to certify that your product is a stem cell product and which has passed all these tests. Even it should be endotoxin free like a drug, because it's ultimately a drug. So they qualify all stem cell characteristics. They are non-cancerous, they are non-immunogenic, all these things are there. So it will be a prescription like for the cell product. We have done it for StemTube cell from StemTube.
Thank you, sir.
Participants, you can unmute yourself if you have any question, or maybe you can post in the chat box as well. I think Satish sir has written, can you arrange the training for needy researchers?
Yeah, definitely. We do have a training program of over 8 to 15 days. We do charge for that, which is possible that all interested can apply for training. We can take 2 or 3 persons at a time because the lab space is limited, but it can be trained. Possible.